If you still love your husband but feel empty when he touches you, you need to hear this before trying to fix anything. Because what hurts the most is not the lack of desire. It is realizing that you are still there, showing up, taking care of everything, being a partner, being a wife. But inside, something changed. And you cannot explain it. You start pulling away without even noticing. You avoid touch. You avoid being alone together. And when he gets close, you are already thinking of an excuse before you feel anything. And then comes the question no one wants to face. Is the problem my marriage, or is it me? Let me tell you something very clearly, as someone who has been exactly where you are. You are not alone in this. There is a silent phase that many women go through, but almost no one talks about. It is when you still love, still care, still want things to work, but your body simply does not follow anymore. You lie next to him and turn the other way. He hugs you and you respond out of habit, not desire. You say you are tired, but deep down you know that is not the real reason. And the hardest part is that no one sees it. On the outside, everything looks normal. The marriage continues, the routine goes on, life keeps moving. But inside, you start disconnecting. And the more you try to ignore it, the bigger that distance becomes. And this is exactly where most women make a mistake that makes everything worse. Now, pay attention to what usually happens next, because this is exactly what I did. And maybe you are doing it too without realizing. You try to fix it by force. You think you need to try harder, get in the mood, respond, not let your marriage drift away. So you try, even without feeling, even without wanting to. But there is something no one tells you about this. Every time you force yourself, your body learns that this moment is not pleasurable. It starts associating touch with obligation, with discomfort, with something you want to avoid. And then the next time, the rejection is even stronger. Do you see the cycle? You do not feel desire. You force yourself. You go through an experience without connection, and then you avoid it even more. This creates a distance that is not only physical, it becomes emotional too. And the worst part is, you start believing the problem is you, that you changed too much, that something inside you is broken, but it is not. And this is where an important shift begins, something almost no one understands. Now, I want you to really listen to this, because this is what changed everything for me. You did not lose your desire. Your body stopped responding. And that completely changes how you need to deal with this. Because when you believe it is about love or your marriage, you try to fix it through effort, communication, and trying harder. But when you understand it is a physical response, you stop blaming yourself and start doing the right things. After a certain point, especially after 40, your body changes. Sensitivity decreases. What used to work no longer works the same way. Your response to touch becomes slower, weaker, or simply does not happen. And that does not mean you stopped loving. It means your body needs a different kind of stimulation to respond. But no one teaches you this. So you keep trying to access something that no longer reacts the same way, and you think the problem is you. But it is not. And when you understand this, you stop fighting yourself, and you begin to see that there is a different way to bring this back. But before I show you what to do, there is one more mistake that might be pushing you even further away. There is a mistake that seems harmless, but it actually pushes you further away from what you want to feel. You start avoiding all kinds of contact. You avoid longer kisses. You avoid hugs. You even avoid sitting too close. As if avoiding small moments will protect you from bigger ones. But this creates a silent effect. Your body starts forgetting. Forgetting how it feels, how it responds, how it connects through touch. And the longer you go without that kind of connection, the more distant it becomes. It is not just desire that fades, it is familiarity with touch. And when a moment finally happens, it feels strange, uncomfortable, almost forced. because the path leading to that moment was completely interrupted. Now think about this. If your body is already not responding the same way and you remove all stimulation, how will it react again? It will not. And that is why the solution is not avoidance. But it is also not forcing yourself. There is a middle path that almost no one talks about, and that is what starts to unlock everything. This is where everything starts to change for real. You do not need to create desire. You need to reactivate sensation. Desire is a result, not the starting point. When you try to want something before you feel it, you block the process even more. But when your body starts to feel again, even gradually, desire comes back naturally. Without effort, without pressure, without that weight you have been carrying. So what do you actually do? First, remove the pressure completely. You need to stop associating intimacy with expectation. No more thinking you have to respond. No more trying to get in the mood. Start with something much simpler. Presence. Second, go back to touch without an end goal. A longer hug. A gentle touch without rushing, without needing it to lead anywhere. Because your body needs to relearn how to feel without defending itself. And now comes the most important point. You need to help your body respond. Because waiting for this to come back on its own can take a long time. And during that time, the distance only grows. There is a way to help your body react to touch again, naturally and gently, without forcing yourself or depending on your mind. And that is what started to change everything for me. This is when I stopped trying to fix everything on my own and understood that my body needed real support in the moment. It was not about changing who I was. It was about giving my body the right kind of stimulation so it could respond again. I found something simple that I could use in the moment, without preparation, without waiting, without depending on anything else. And the first thing I noticed was completely different from anything I had tried before. My body responded, without effort, without needing to force myself into the mood. It was a physical response, natural, something I had not felt in a long time. And that changes everything, because when your body responds, you relax. You stop anticipating rejection. You stop avoiding. And you start allowing yourself again. Little by little, touch begins to make sense again. Moments stop feeling like obligations and become something light, possible, real. That is how I started reconnecting with myself. And when that happened, my marriage followed. But what impacted me the most was not just the relationship. It was how I started seeing myself again. What changed was not just intimacy. It was how I felt inside my own body again. I stopped seeing myself as someone who had lost something, and started seeing myself as someone who just needed a different kind of care. That weight of guilt started to fade. That feeling of failing disappeared. And in its place came something much lighter: confidence, presence, willingness to be there. And that reflects directly in how you connect with your partner. Because when you feel good in your body, you do not avoid. You engage. You allow yourself, and that changes the entire dynamic of the relationship. It is not just about intimacy. It is about the way you look at each other, the way you touch, the closeness in everyday life. Everything begins to fall back into place. And that is why ignoring this is not an option. Because it is not just your desire at stake. It is your connection with yourself. And when you recover that, you realize it was never about not feeling anymore. It was about not knowing how to access it again. If you made it this far, I want to be very clear with you. There is a solution. But it is not ignoring it, not forcing yourself, and not waiting for it to come back on its own. It is making a simple decision to take care of your body the right way. It took me time to understand this because I tried to solve everything in my mind, by effort, by pushing through, and nothing worked. Until I realized I needed something that would help my body respond again to touch, naturally and without pressure. That is when I started using a cream called Vigorelle, and I know it might sound too simple, but that simplicity is exactly why it worked. Because it works directly on sensitivity in the moment of touch. It is not something you need to wait days for. It does not depend on your mood or mental state. It helps your body respond right there in that moment. And when that happens, you do not have to force anything anymore. Desire comes as a result. If you want to understand more about how it works, I left the link in the description. And if this kind of conversation made sense to you, subscribe to the channel. Here you will find content that people do not talk about, explained in a simple, direct, and judgment-free way. Because there is still a lot you can reconnect with, and sometimes you just need to hear it the right way. You are not broken. You just needed the right approach. And that changes everything.